Hello everybody and welcome to this video over informational social influence. So again, social influence is when we change our behavior or attitudes due to other people's behavior or attitudes. Informational social influence is when we change our behaviors to due to other people's attitude and behaviors because those attitudes and behaviors are offering us information about how we should behave. All right. Now, I'm going to pull up my visual aid here. Kaplow. There we go. All right. So again, with social or informational social influence, or just informational influence, other people's behavior are giving us information, all right, about how we should behave. Now, informational social influence tends to lead to both public conformity and private conformity, so public compliance and private acceptance. And part of that is because we have a desire to not feel uncertain. We desire to feel certain, all right, or at least to avoid uncertainty. And so when we are faced with uncertain situations or ambiguous situations, that motive to avoid uncertainty can lead us to conform to the behaviors others are engaging in. All right, so an ambiguous situation is any situation in which you don't know what to do. So the correct behavior is unclear. Maybe you aren't getting a proper look at things, right? So for example, in Sherif's classic study with the autokinetic effect, we see this uncertainty and we see how it can lead to people conforming. So for example, in Sherif's classic study, he was looking at the development of norms specifically. And what he would have participants do is he would have them sit in a dark room and then he would shine a beam of light at the front of the room, causing a dot of light. Now, of course, this beam of light, well, I guess of course, he made sure that this beam of light never moved, all right? The beam of light was always constant, sturdy. So the dot of light on the front of the room never moved. He would leave it up there for a while, then he would turn it off and turn the lights back on, and he would have participants go around. He would go around the room and ask participants how far the dot moved. Well, what do you mean? The question creates uncertainty. If you're sitting there looking at that dot and you think, it didn't move at all, I didn't think. And then you're asked the question, well, how much did it move? That question implies that it did. Now, imagine that some of the participants in the room start giving an estimate that's greater than 0, right? So some people are giving large estimates, some people are giving small estimates. And here you are thinking, I didn't think it moved. Then your question implies that it did, and these folks are apparently saying it did. So maybe it did. That creates uncertainty, right? And so what Sherif found is that, because he did this more than once, after multiple trials, right? So he'd do it once, everybody estimate. Do it, then he'd turn off the lights, shine the light on the front of the front wall again, turn it off, turn the lights back on, do it all again. And he repeated that several times. And what he found was that over several trials, the variation in each participant's estimate of how far the dot moved got smaller because people were conforming. Those who had originally estimated a lot of movement started estimating less and less. Those who had estimated none or very little movement started estimating more and more movement. And so they met kind of in the middle, all right? They conformed. So again, in this situation, Sherif has created an uncertain situation. He's created a situation that's ambiguous. And again, when we're uncertain, we tend to look to others for information about what to do and conform to it, right? So situations are ambiguous when they're new, right? They're novel. That's what novel means, new, right? So think about when you're visiting a new place, right? Visiting another country, you know, pretty much anywhere in America. I mean, obviously there are differences as you go around the country, but for the most part, most of the major cultural things are the same. But if you go to a whole different country, right, then you start feeling a little uncertain. In fact, you probably feel, I know I would feel very uncertain because I've heard, you know, about people in other countries' opinions of folks from America, right? So I would feel very uncertain. So that would be a novel situation. Also, when there's conflicting information. So for example, in Sherif's experiment, he created a situation where there was conflicting information. What you saw, the question, and then the more conflicting information arose when other participants started giving answers that were greater than 0, meaning that they thought the dot of light moved, all right? But emergencies can also give you conflicting information. So think about, you know, somebody choking in a restaurant, right? Most of us are not medical doctors. Most of us don't know how to perform the Heimlich maneuver. And so in that situation, you're caught with conflicting information. You want to help. You think you probably should help, but you don't know how, right? You don't want to hurt the person more. So you've got this conflicting information. I should help, but I don't know how to help, right? And so emergencies create a situation that can have conflicting information. And certainly for many of us, emergencies are also novel. Now, what are some moderators of conforming because we don't know what to do and we want to do the right thing? Well, so again, remember, a moderator, anything that makes a relationship stronger or weaker. So a moderator is any kind of variable that makes makes the relationship between uncertainty and conformity decrease or increase. Well, one of those moderators is importance. So in my video talking about normative social influence, I talked about half of Barron et al.'s study, all right? So in that video, I talked about the condition in which they had participants look at a perpetrator's picture for 5 seconds. Well, in another condition, they had participants look at it for less than a second. So were shown the picture and it was taken away very quickly. All right. So in this situation, they didn't get a good look, right? So they're not terribly certain about what the perpetrator looked like. They're not certain of the right answer. But again, they manipulated, as I mentioned in my video over normative social influence, the importance of being accurate. So in the high importance condition, again, they were saying that they were establishing the norms that would be used around the country for eyewitness accuracy. They incentivized it even more by offering the person who is the most accurate some money. Whereas in the low importance condition, they told them this was just the first time they were looking at it. They didn't really, they were trying to establish how people did in general, right? So high stakes versus low stakes. High importance condition, low importance condition. Now, again, informational social influence leads us to conform because we don't know what the right thing to do is and we want to do the right thing. Well, when it's important to do the right thing, we conform due to informational social influence even more. So in Barron and colleagues' study, what they found is that participants conformed more when it was important to be right than when it wasn't important to be right, when they only saw the participant for less than a second. All right. So when the right answer, who the perpetrator is, so again, they showed them a lineup and they had to identify the perpetrator, and they had other participants there also guessing, also answering. The real participants conformed to the wrong answer more when it was important to be, conformed more to the wrong answer when it was important to be right than it wasn't important to be right. All right, because again, they didn't know the right answer because they were shown the face for less than a second. right? Or at least most of them probably didn't have a good idea. They certainly weren't certain of it. So we have the situation where the participants are not certain of the right answer, right? They're not certain of who the perpetrator is because they were only shown the perpetrator for less than a second. But they were put in either a situation where it was important to be right or it didn't really matter. When it was important to be right, they conformed to the Confederates' answers more than when it really didn't matter. All right. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of situations where that there's a lot of uncertainty, but it's really important to do the right thing. All right. In fact, doing the wrong thing can be very harmful. Natural disasters, emergencies, any type of crisis. All right. In these situations, doing the right thing is really important. And if you don't know what the right thing to do is, then you're susceptible to informational social influence. You look to others for information about what the right thing to do is. All right. So one moderator is the importance of being right. Another is the presence of experts. We tend to think of experts as knowing their stuff. They should, they're an expert, right? And so when an expert tells us the right way to behave, that gives us a certain degree of certainty about what the right thing to do is. So in the presence of experts, we tend to conform more to what the expert says, right? Because again, right, when we're uncertain, we're motivated to do the right thing, to behave the right way. So if an expert is around, presumably they know the right way to behave, and so when they tell us, we conform to that. All right. So there you go. Two big moderators of conforming due to informational social influence. So we conform more when we don't know what to do, when we're uncertain, when it's important to do the right thing, and we conform more when we don't know the right thing to do, when there's an expert around and they're behaving. We conform to them. All right. All right, guys. That is it for this video over informational social influence. As always, if you have any questions, send them my way. If not, I hope this video is helpful in helping you understand informational social influence. If there's anything that's left you unclear, please ask me. Otherwise, have a great week. I'll see you later on.